Vitaємо, that is Ukrainian for welcome, and you are indeed welcome to our first program of the Ukrainian Pulse. The Ukrainian Pulse is an English language program concerning, obviously, things that are Ukrainian in nature. So if there are issues, concerns in the Ukrainian community, you could find them here, as well as events. So sit back, relax, and enjoy the show.
Our first segment is an interview with Ukrainian filmmaker Damian Kolodiy about his latest film, Freedom or Death.
We have a special treat here today. We're here with the Ukrainian filmmaker who has delivered an incredible, unflinching look of the events that happened in the Maidan and the current state of affairs in Ukraine. Of course, I'm speaking of the documentary, Freedom or Death, and we're here with Damian Kolodiy. How did this film come to be?
This film came to be first because I was following closely what was happening in Ukraine. And when things started heating up on the Maidan after they beat up the students and millions of people came out to demonstrate, I realized that this wasn't just another protest that was going to go away after a couple days. I just decided that, I had to get myself over there. I had done a previous documentary on the Orange Revolution, and I realized that that story was unfinished, and this was the continuation of that story. So I just went there and just filmed and did interviews myself. I have a lot of friends in Kyiv, so I did have people contacting me and saying, oh, you should come film here. That's going on. Or, I have this interesting person you should interview. But essentially I didn't have anyone to, work with on an everyday basis that was working on on the film with me. So, I'm kind of a DIY person, so I just kind of do it. Though I did, end up getting other footage from other people after the events that happened that I used with the film. Speaking of stylistically about the film, originally I did not want to have myself in the film or necessarily be the narrator. I had done that with my first film, with the idea that it would give a more personal relationship for the viewer, for the viewer to relate to kind of guide as a guide throughout those events, someone to bridge the different events and kind of with the personal, American of Ukrainian descent kind of perspective. And an American producer friend convinced me that that would be a more interesting perspective to take in this film as well. And it would differentiate my film from other film, just having that kind of personal prism to interpret the events. So that's why I ended up doing it again through kind of my point of view. Some people like that, some people don't. But that was the reasoning for it. But one reason also stylistically why I think my film is so viscerally impactful in a way that I haven't seen audiences react to a film this way. But I think it really brings them into those events because I really don't do too many interviews of someone sitting there and recollecting the past. Most of my interviews happen in real time, and I try to tell the story in real time. So as the events are happening, I'll go up to someone and throw them a question to try to basically frame what the situation is right now. So the emotions are raw, the environment around them, they're in the environment. And I did that with Orange Chronicles, and I did it also with Freedom or Death. And it makes it kind of takes away that third wall where you have someone saying there, well, it was like this, and he's sitting in a room recollecting, versus someone where, there's bombs exploding and people walking around, and you can see in their eyes that this is happening now. So I think that brings the viewer more into the actual film and the experience of Maidan, and that's another reason it's so impactful. And there was a point where I couldn't find the money to finish it, and I basically concluded that well, I guess this film isn't necessary for anyone because I can't get any grants. I wasn't able to get any money from the Ukrainian diaspora. And I kind of played my last card, which was contacting some businessmen that I knew had some business in Ukraine or were sympathetic to Ukraine, seeing if I could get one of them to help out in some way. And one guy responded, and his name is Peter Chitanyshov. He's the president of Kyivstar, which is a big cell phone company in Ukraine. And he ended up funding the finishing of the film in Kiev at Babak Studio, where we did all the color correction, graphics, sound work, voiceover recording, the sound mixing, all happened there because of him. Because I wasn't able to find the money to do that here in the States. And interestingly enough, he's Russian. So I always felt the Maidan was where, like, kind of the Ukrainian identity was reborn for a lot of people who came there and really got to see this kind of like almost ideal Ukraine that existed on the Maidan, where people spoke Ukrainian and you heard Ukrainian music and there was Ukrainian chants and slogans, and sometimes you might have someone reading some Ukrainian poetry and a lot of political conversations. And that's what I think Maidan was most interesting, where you had these people from the west of Ukraine, from the Halachina area, who had kind of been brought up in this culture, and then they were bringing that to Maidan in Kyiv, and there were people from all over Ukraine there. So it was this kind of very interesting intermixing of different parts of Ukraine, but Ukrainian patriotism kind of underlying it all. And sometimes I just didn't really want to film, but I just wanted to kind of listen and experience it and listen to the speeches and what they're trying to figure out, what they're strategizing, and talking to people about, well, where do you think it can go? So it was, I can't say it was riveting all the time, but if you're talking about a typical day, it was just having conversations with people, walking around, having conversations with different people and meeting new people. And there's definitely a core group of people who were there on Maidan all the time, living on Maidan, who were not ready to go home or go anywhere until they won. That was a theme that was reiterated to me pretty often, that there was no acceptable solution except the Yanukovych leaving the office of the presidency. Certain individuals were kidnapped and they were interrogated, or they were beat up and tortured. This wasn't like on this mass scale, but it was happening to people who were very, specifically targeted for their activism. So this was kind of happening throughout, since the students got beat up. There were these acts of violence that were happening, I guess, off screen. They weren't like on the Maidan Square necessarily. So that was tolerated, but it was understood that these are the tactics that the regime is doing. It's war. And that was, I think, maybe hard for people outside of Ukraine to understand that, where you saw in the news just people throwing Molotov cocktails and, being violent, but like people didn't just come to the square and that just happened the next day. There was a period of time where things evolved to that kind of reaction, that provoked that kind of reaction. So the people really tolerated a lot until there was no more option, because they realized that their government was at war with them. And people were pulling other people out of the hospital because even the hospitals weren't safe. Well, I wanted my film primarily so English-speaking viewers understood who these people were. Initially there was this thing where Putin was saying, and Russian propaganda was saying, oh, these are all drug addicts and bombs and just, the low dredges of society that are coming out here and living for free on the Maidan Square. And to show that these were people from all walks of life, educated people, doctors, lawyers, just everyone from all different spheres of life. So the idea was to show the truth about what was going on in the face of the distortion coming out from Russia. I called the film Freedom or Death because the most lasting impression for me was looking into these people's eyes who were ready to die for the cause that they were fighting for. So being on the Maidan and seeing these people who were there until they either succeeded in what they were hoping to achieve on the Maidan, or they failed, which was either imprisonment or death. And looking in their eyes and realizing that they're serious about this, they're not going anywhere. And that was either younger people or older people, but those people who remained on the Maidan when there was, you know, the Berkut were attacking. This was before the live sniper fire, but you know, there was Molotov cocktails and back and forth, a lot of skirmishes with the police, with the Berkut, and like the people stayed there, and it was amazing to me. And they were going to stay there, and that just, you know, really leaves an impression of they really believe in their cause, and it's inspiring, and it's pretty awesome. I mean, it's not something you see every day, so you know, it almost makes, you know, your little concerns about, do I have my new iPhone or the new, you know, this piece of technology or whatever the concerns, you know, a lot of times we have here, we complain about this and that, kind of puts it into perspective in a way that you don't often get to experience. So that really left an impression for me, why I called the film Freedom or Death, because that's what it was.
Up next, we will be viewing Damian Kolodiy's movie trailer of Freedom or Death. It is not for people my age or people who are sensitive to graphic scenes, so please exercise your discretion.
My name is Damian Kolodiy, and I'm a Ukrainian-American filmmaker living in New York City. I was raised in New Jersey, but my family is originally from Ukraine. Growing up, I always heard a lot about Ukraine, but didn't spend much time there until 2004, when I became increasingly alarmed at what was going on around Ukraine's bitterly disputed presidential election. So I flew to Kyiv and made a film called The Orange Chronicles. I documented firsthand the power of the masses and also learned about government-sponsored corruption and the dirty tricks Ukraine's leaders were willing to employ to stay in power. My ancestral people have been struggling for years for true independence and freedom, and during the Orange Revolution, things were pushed close to the breaking point. That was 10 years ago. Since then, Ukraine has become even more of a dictatorship. Ukraine is a country marked by tyranny and iron-fisted rule straight out of the Cold War. The president's family and his entourage have looted billions from the Ukrainian people and intimidated and jailed opposition politicians. I had been watching these events closely from my home in New York City, and when the demonstrations in support of the trade agreement with the European Union started, I decided it was time to go back to the country that my grandparents had escaped from during World War II to see for myself what exactly was going on. I was shocked by what I saw. I came here to film a protest, and instead a revolution exploded around me. I made it my mission to tell the truth of the story to the world. I wanted to talk to the people out on the streets, find out what it's like to watch their country being constantly shaped and reshaped by the whims of its leaders to suit their own selfish needs.
This is not about Euro Union, this is all about truth. This is all about, you know, we just want to be equal. We want to be, you know, free.
And I wanted to make my own voice heard, however small, to support the dream of a truly independent Ukraine, and to be able to show the world the incredible strength, courage, and resilience of Ukrainians. I went to Ukraine to witness and document what was happening to its people, my people, and was awestruck seeing average citizens risking their lives for the idea of freedom and democracy.
Ці люди не переможуть, ми не переможемо, завтра ми будемо сидіти всі в тюрмах.
I had no idea what I was about to find, and that the journey would nearly kill me. What I witnessed there was more incredible and shocking than anything I could have possibly imagined. Just when I thought the violence couldn't get any worse, government snipers with high-powered rifles opened fire on the people, killing close to 100 demonstrators.
Щоб Янукович йшов у відставку. Ми йдемо на штурм зі зброєю. Я вам кляну.
Буде дуже серйозна, добра війна. І буде зброя. Буде справжня зброя.
Next, we'll be hearing a choral performance of the song Plyve Kacha, which has become somewhat of an anthem for the Maidan revolution in Ukraine.
From the protests of Euromaidan in November 2013 to the seizure of Crimea and the ongoing fighting in eastern Ukraine, nearly 10,000 Ukrainians have been killed in the pursuit of freedom and defending their lands from Russia. In addition to our prayers, our parish has helped to raise money for the Ukrainian soldiers fighting in the east. And as a sign of their gratitude, they sent us this signed Ukrainian flag, which we display with pride in our church. As our first performance, a select group of singers from our parish will now perform a rendition of the song Plyve Kacha, which has become a haunting memorial to those Ukrainians who have died during this conflict, with the hope that this conflict will someday soon be over. Just a few more quick notes. The title of the song translates to "The Duckling Swims," but the lyrics are a dialogue between a son going off for war and his mother. When the son asks, "My dear mother, what will happen to me if I die in a foreign land?" The mother replies, "Well, my dearest, you will be buried by other people." Пісня Plyve Kacha.
Plyve Kacha,
As you've seen in our previous segments, Ukraine has gone through a tumultuous few years, and as such, the hardship has been handed down to the people of Ukraine. And no surprise, a call for aid has gone out. Our next segment will concern charity organizations. We've picked out one randomly called the New Ukrainian Wave in Passaic, and we're going to go right now to Irina Stachira and find out more about them. Stay tuned.
Hi, I am Irina Stachira, and I'm here for the Ukrainian Pulse, together with the members of New Ukrainian Wave from Passaic, Halina Семеняк, Василь Гоцко.
Halina, what can you tell us about what is currently happening in Ukraine, and what does your organization do? Ukraine in the past 3 years left an impression and a mark on every Ukrainian living in Ukraine or anywhere in the world. No one thought that a peaceful demonstration of students will be beaten by government police and later will grow into a revolution. And not long after that, Russia would annex Crimea and occupy the eastern part of Ukraine. But worst of all, no one thought that the blood of our youngest and best of our nation would be spilled. Today, it is a duty of every Ukrainian to unite and help our Ukrainian brothers and sisters in Ukraine in every way possible. That goes for material and moral support. That is why our organization is involved. We try and do as much as possible to help. I know that your organization has been around for a few years. Please tell us how it was founded and what exactly do you do as an organization? How do you help Ukraine? Our local group, the New Ukrainian Wave of Passaic, was founded in 2008 as part of Ukrainian Wave USA. Now we have 25 members officially, but we have a lot of supporters. We work together with other Ukrainian organizations such as the Ukrainian Congressional Committee, Organization for Lemko, SUM, Plus, and others who are willing to help. Most of our work is done and based out of our parish, the St. Nicholas Ukrainian Catholic Church of Passaic, with a lot of help from our father, Андрій Дудкевич.
Тут на базі церкви Святого Отця Миколая у Пасейку і також за підтримки отця Андрія Дудкевича.
Дякую. А що, Василю?
Thank you. What do you, Vasil, think is the most needed in Ukraine now, and how does your organization respond to it?
В першу чергу це є наслідки війни.
First of all, we need help to deal with the consequences of the war. A lot of men who were soldiers became injured and died. Other injured soldiers and families of fallen heroes need help. First and most important is to raise money to help them financially. Most of the time, such families and injured are funded through other people, and we are working on a case-by-case basis. We organize fundraising events here in church or surrounding areas. All of the funds are going from our hands to the hands of those families or injured soldiers. For example, last funding event took place here at the church in the meeting hall downstairs. It was called Pierogi and Borscht. During that event, our organization raised $7,000. All the proceedings went to 2 injured soldiers who were present at the time.
Дякую. Додати, що загальна сума, те, що ми рахували по підрахунках.
I would like to add that for the past couple of years, our organization raised over $100,000, which were then sent to help Ukraine.
Ще таке питання на кінець. Якщо хтось хоче долучитися до допомоги.
Thank you. One more question. If someone wants to help you, how can they reach you?
Ми працюємо над сторінкою зараз, але ми
We are
маємо
working on
сторінку
developing
на
our
Фейсбуці.
website.
Це
But currently we have our Facebook
Ukrainian
page.
Wave, це по-англійськи, або нова
It's
українська
called New
хвиля, це
Ukrainian
на
Wave
Фейсбуку,
Passaic.
Passaic. Це можна дивитися, якщо
You can
дивитися
check for
на Google,
upcoming
це
events
можна в
there.
різних наборах слів робити. Я думаю, що це дуже легко
Also, you can
знайти.
email us
Всі мають
from there.
друзів з околиці, і завжди ми
Or you can call us on our
рекламуємо
phone
і
numbers that are
висилаємо
provided
друзям
there.
про наші акції. Там є номери телефонів.
Thank you for joining us and see you next time.
Thank you, Irina, for that information about the New Ukrainian Wave. It is certainly a charity that's doing some good work in Ukraine. As with anything, when you're considering a charity, it's not bad to do some research to find out whether their priorities and values mesh with your own. In the meantime, thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time on the Ukrainian Pulse. Feel the beat.